Good afternoon, everybody. Well, how are y'all doing today? I'm coming at you from my backyard. It's been a wonderful day. I've been doing a little bit of soul searching lately. Actually, when am I not? But I went down to the park today with my family and we had a nice picnic, hung out. Kids played on the playground, took the dog for a walk and all these things, and I came back. I was just thinking about all the things that I'm grateful for. All the things in life that just make life what it is. And I don't know. It's difficult to know exactly what I want to talk about because there are so many subjects. I was watching another video from someone earlier who entitled it "I Hate Myself," something along those lines. And he was talking about how he hates himself for procrastinating. Well, he didn't say it in those words, but he says he likes who he is, and he likes all the things he does, and he knows he's skilled and talented, but he doesn't feel like he is motivated enough to get the things done that he needs to get done. And instantly I thought of a video I'd watched earlier in the day, which was a TED Talk that was about procrastinators. And I found that video was very insightful, because the guy who held it, he was talking about the different types of people. Some people will, let's say you have a term paper due, people will spread it out over time. And then there's people who wait to the last minute and cram and do everything. And there's a major personality difference between people that do this. Yet, it seems that procrastination is something that people look at as a downfall or a negative trait. Anybody who's had a procrastination, or is a procrastinator rather, knows what I'm talking about. People like us, and I'm with you, we look at those who go out and just grab life by the horns and do everything that they want to accomplish, and we say, wow, that's awesome, how do you do it? I think that for me, maybe it's that the drive isn't there, that I don't desire to have a lot or to be famous or be great, so therefore my drive is just to, well, I'd like to be great, but only great, and that's semantics, in my subjective opinion of what great is. And great is being appreciated and respected and loved, because ultimately we as humans, that's all we want. If you look at the rich man, and we talk about taxing the rich because they have too much, we know that doesn't work. We talk about shaming the rich because they're too rich, that doesn't work. But what are the rich people really after? And something else I was looking into earlier, that the rich are after appreciation. And they're after respect. And our society has always shown that there's value in money beyond the money itself. That having money gives you a form of value as a human. And of course we know today that the value is only as good as what you do with the money. But what we need to do as a society to turn it around is to start appreciating each other. And that was a point that was made on something I was watching, and it's so true. If we want to get if we want to get the rich to stop desiring to be so rich or to share what they have, you can't do it by force. And you can't do it by shaming, although shaming is always a part of it. We shame those who are greedy or selfish, but generally you want to ignore people like that and don't give them the credit or the attention that they want unless they show that they can contribute to the world. And of course I'm getting into very personal policies. I do not believe that the rich should be forced. I've gone back and forth on this, and no, I don't believe that the rich should be forced to pay more money merely because they're rich, But, so stepping away from the rich, my point here by bringing that up is to say that what we're trying to do is deal with the root of the problem, why people are the way they are. And it's easy to say that this is a problem and this is a problem. But figuring out the root of the problem, that's really what I delve into. It's what I'm interested in. It's what drives me. Figuring out what makes people tick and why they do the things they do. Because I believe that understanding is the first key towards change. If you look at it metaphorically, there's always been forced change. Look at regime change in the Middle East. Look how well that worked. You can't force people into changing who they are without giving them an example of something greater to aspire to. And this is a very important point, one I can't stress enough, in my personal opinion. We, as a society, have to start honoring each other for being human. And I know that's difficult for some people. In fact, I spoke with a fella earlier who said that life is hell and life is pointless and that you suffer all through your life and then you'll burn in hell for eternity, and what's the point of it all? And I say, well, you tell me. Why are you still here? Why are you writing about it? You obviously have something you want out of life. And if not, maybe you're just not looking at it correctly. However, I can't sit and say, man, you're an idiot for believing what you believe, that you're just a loser for seeing life horribly, because that just makes things worse. I have to give that person that same respect that I would give to the rich man to try to get him to change his ways. In other words, when you see somebody who's suffering and then you beat them down further, it doesn't serve anybody. It really helps to see that people are hurting inside. Every one of you is hurting in some way. I doubt there's one person out there watching this who doesn't have some deep pain residing within them, whether it be the death of a loved one, suffering through a major traumatic experience, or not feeling like they've done enough in their life, feeling like they could have done better with their kids, or that, you know, there are a million reasons why people feel bad about themselves. And when we feel bad about ourselves, we reflect that on the world. Now back to having wealth. The person who has a lot of wealth, they're going to, if people constantly berate somebody who's rich because they're rich, and they constantly read these reports about these are rich people, they're selfish, they're greedy, what it's showing is that poor people have separated themselves from the rich by their own choice. And therefore the rich will separate themselves by the poor. If you didn't watch I made a video yesterday where I mentioned this, but I'll say it again. I saw this great flow chart where there's a bird sitting on a top of the pedestal, and then there's 2 birds below him and 4 below that, and it said a flow chart for how business works, and it was like management all the way down to like the average worker, and it said the guys from the top look down and all they see are shitheads, and the guys from the bottom look up and all they see are assholes, and there it is. That's what it is. And so, didn't want to go too deep into the rich and poor thing, but it's a divisiveness that goes beyond race, it goes beyond religion, it goes beyond borders. The disapproval of people who have wealth by the people who don't is a big problem. So rather than saying, well, only the rich need to change their way of thinking, I think that the poor need to change their way of thinking too, myself included. And these are things that I've been processing over a period of years, so it's not like a new thought. I mean, I guess to put it simply, what I found the most useful tool for analyzing the world and life is to look at where the extremes are, look at where the hate is, find out what pisses people off. You can't hide from that, you can't ignore it. What pisses you off? Is it what you can't see, or what you think may exist? Or is it what you can see in front of your face? Is it the corporation down the street who's polluting your river? Is it the fire coming out of your faucet? Or is it something more mundane, like merely just hearing traffic from your house and wishing the city would build a wall so you can have more privacy? Things like that, where we find little problems that really aren't a big issue, but we get angry and separate ourselves. And look at how neighborhoods separate themselves. I mean, and this is another thing, you have to embrace it. You can't tell people to just accept and love one another. And this was kind of the next point I was going to make about racism. You'll never be able to get people to stop disliking other people because of how they look. People judge each other for color of hair, for length of hair, for height, for weight, even within their own race classes. To think that we're going to stop segregation of races by will, by interest, or by force is just ludicrous. So, rather than and look at this, race the same way as men and women. Women's rights. Women have wanted to, the whole movement. You look at 100 years ago, women couldn't vote. Women deserve the same rights as men. But look at what's happened today. We've taken it to a whole new level, where there's extreme feminism movement that is just ludicrous, because there are many extremists in the group that use that as a catalyst for hate. And I've seen this. I completely stay out of that whole thing, because there are some angry women out there. There are some angry men out there. The problem is that their hostility is misplaced. If a woman, I'm not going to get into the details, I don't want to be crude or crass, but if something happens to a woman, whether she's raped or whether she has an issue with a man who is abusive to her child or to her, it can set her on a tangent to be really, really pissed off at men. And likewise, I've talked to many men who have had women who have split on them, taken their fortunes, taken their kids, and treated them like shit. And they hate women. And what we've got to say is, we have to just stop despising sexes, races, cultures. We have to start despising the people, the individuals. So let me step into politics for a minute and say we need to do the exact same thing with the government. So I get so tired of hearing people say, it's the government's fault and the government's causing these problems. If the government wasn't all in our business and we need to shrink government, we need to grow government. The government is nothing more than a word that says this is the governing body that represents us, that we have, but there is no government that's causing the problems. Yet we don't know where to cast our blame. You see, it's just the same way as if the wife leaves and the man's angry and he can't take it out on her. He has to go complain on the internet or complain to friends, and he might be angry at women for the rest of his life, and vice versa with the woman. And the same thing happens with the government. A person finds out that they've been lied to, and they're angry about every aspect of it. So we have to figure out where these extremes lie and kick their asses. I'm not talking about people. I'm saying in our own minds, find that corner, find that area where we're hiding these prejudices against entire groups of people we don't know, and kick it in the ass. And I haven't even delved into religion, which ties in with politics really well. I've grown very tolerant and understanding of the needs of religion. When we talk about religion and the beliefs people have, I've learned that the beliefs are a very small part. They mean nothing in the big picture. It's not the beliefs that we discuss. It's who cares what a person believes. It's the actions. It's how do they conduct themselves in their daily life. Are they a good person? Are they honest? Does a religion teach them to share and to care? And more than just what the individual does, how does it help the group? And I'm not talking about the evangelical churches where, pastors are making a ton of money passing the collection plate around. I'm talking about the neighborhood church where people can go and discuss things and talk about how to be better people of all different cultures and religions. Yet people who despise religion, they are so angry, they hate churches. Look at what atheists have done to Christmas. I mean, sure, times do change, but Christmas has been part of our culture since, I guess the 1800s and the Santa deal. And you could go back and look at how Coke brought the Santa in and everything, but it doesn't matter, it's something we do. You don't have to make it religious. And I feel like people have, the atheist side has taken it a little too far, because it shouldn't bother a person what another person believes. But they will say, hey, times change. And, times do change. And you're right, we need to be a little more politically correct. But I use that as an example so I could say, this is what's happening with, say, religion in schools. Some people want to keep it in, some people want it out. I went to the school the other day, and before we did our class, we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and they still say God. Is it a big deal to the parents that are atheists? No, not really. But some do make a big deal about it. What I found is that they're not angry because we're saying God or somebody says they believe in something. They're angry because of the underlying problems that happen from religion. When a person says, I'm a Christian, an atheist might instantly picture the Crusades, as well as the whole delusion of, when a Christian says, I'm a Christian to an atheist, the atheist, instantly their brain goes through all the different people that they've talked to that are Christians, and all the different conversations that they've had with Christians. And if they're anything like me, which I'm not an atheist, by the way, and no, I'm not a Christian either, and please don't ask me what I am, because I hate trying to define what I believe. If you really must know, I believe that the universe itself is conscious, and the galaxies are conscious, and within them, the Earth itself is conscious and breathing. That the Earth is self-regulating and alive, and that's as far as I take it. So, anyway, that out of the way. The person's not angry at the other person because he's a Christian. If you talk to the person, and you've talked with a lot of Christians online and you're not a Christian, you'll learn to tolerate them more, because you find a lot of people who say, yeah, I don't really agree in taking the Bible literally either, but I do believe that taking Jesus into my heart has helped me. And how can you blame a person if they say that that's really helped them and made them feel better? So that's a little bit of understanding. So I'm trying to kind of cover all the bases. We need to understand why people believe. It makes them comfortable. And I see people who can't stand it when others are comfortable. They say, it must be nice to live in your delusion, your religious delusion. And I was one of those guys who used to say that shit to people. And then I realized, what is it? Am I jealous because they're happy? Am I jealous because they have a belief system that, even if it's a sucker system and maybe it's not true, and maybe they even know it's not true, of course they're going to defend it, because they want to believe that there's an afterlife. They want to believe they'll see their loved ones again. They want to believe that there's a purpose for all this fucking craziness that we call life. And I'll tell you, not one of the atheists that I've spoken to has it figured out either. We all have our own ideas of what reality is. Some people have a full belief that science has explained it all, and that this is how the universe was created, and this is where it's going. Other people, they don't even believe the universe exists. They believe the Earth's flat, and that the whole thing's a projection in the sky. The beliefs go to all extremes. And I think that what we need to do, instead of pointing the finger, instead of yelling at people, instead of being mean, we need to ask, what do people really want? And it's back full circle to recognition, respect. If you have a conversation with somebody, try to respect them in whatever way you can. It's difficult, especially when people are ignorant, hateful, spiteful, mean. And I don't take shit from anybody. If somebody goes off on me and they want to talk shit, I'll talk shit right back at them. I don't play the, passive card. But when I see that a person is really not angry, that they're not hateful, that they're really hurting inside, then I start to see that everyone who does that is hurting inside. Even if they're a really great troll and they're out there and you can see that they're a very intelligent person and that they're just out to cause trouble, they're doing it because they don't like themselves or something about their lives. Because a person who loves themselves, loves their life, and understands their world only seeks to help other people as best they can, and still help themselves, of course. It's not a selfless thing. It's living is selfish. We're humans. Just don't take it too seriously. Don't take yourselves too seriously. Take life for what it is. Tomorrow you might not wake up, but hopefully you do.